Hello there, my name is Payal Naraine and welcome to this video series. यहाँ हम कवर कर रहे हैं पूनम दलाल दहिया की एंशिएंट एंड मेडिवल इंडिया की थर्ड एडिशन, जो कि लेटेस्ट एडिशन है. इस किताब को हम थ्रूली रीड करेंगे और जहाँ ज़रूरत पड़ेगी वहाँ हम साथ ही साथ UPSC एंड स्टेट सर्विसेज में आए हुए प्रीवियस ईयर के क्वेश्चंस भी डिस्कस करेंगे. एंड इस सीरीज़ में वीडियोस लगभग 30 to 35 मिनट्स के होंगे, बड़े इफेक्टिव होंगे और हम ऑलमोस्ट 40 to 45 लेक्चर्स में ये पूरी किताब कवर करेंगे. और अगर आपने ये सीरीज़ 3 to 4 टाइम्स देख ली तो बिल्कुल ये किताब आपके दिमाग में छप जाएगी एंड ट्रस्ट मी, आपकी एक्यूरेसी भी काफ़ी इंक्रीज़ हो जाएगी. साथ ही साथ आपका रिवीजन भी काफ़ी आसान हो जाएगा. सो अगर आपको रिवीजन के साथ साथ वैल्यू एडिशन भी करना है तो ये सीरीज़ पूरी फॉलो करें. आपको बस आपके पास ये किताब रखकर मुझे सुनना है एंड मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स मार्क करने हैं. So without any further delay, let's get started. Hello there, welcome back to the channel Ghatna Sutra. यहाँ हम कवर कर रहे हैं पूनम दलाल दहिया की एंशिएंट एंड मेडिवल इंडिया थर्ड एडिशन, जो कि लेटेस्ट एडिशन है. और हमने लास्ट वीडियो में कवर कर लिया था मौर्यन आर्ट एंड स्कल्पचर. नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट विद द डिक्लाइन ऑफ द मौर्यास. सो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. Decline of the Mauryas. The Mauryan Empire began to disintegrate soon after the death of Ashoka, around 232 BCE. Ashoka was succeeded by a chain of weak rulers since, surprisingly, after Ashoka, only one of the later Mauryas, that is King Dashratha, is known to have issued inscriptions. Several factors can be delineated which brought about the decline and the fall of the Mauryan Empire, such as Brahminical reaction. The anti-sacrifice attitude of Buddhism and deriding of superfluous rituals performed by Ashoka must have brought loss to the income and livelihood options of Brahmins who used to live in the varied gifts made to them. Also, the appointment of Dhamma Mahatmas would have come in conflict with Brahmanas' prestige as custodian of social morality and order. This naturally must have made Brahmins hostile towards the Mauryans. They wanted a ruler who would uphold their existing interests and privileges. It is rather interesting to note that some of the new kingdom that arose on the ruins of Mauryan Empire were ruled by Brahmins, such as the Shungas and the Kanavas in central India and the Satavahanas in Deccan. Ashoka's pacifist policy also resulted in lack of preparedness of the army and may have been a factor responsible for the success of Greek invasion. Har Prasad Shastri too corroborated this view and holds Ashoka's pro-Buddhist and pacifist peace policy responsible for annoying the Brahmins and resulting in the fall of Mauryan Empire. Oppressive rule in provinces. There have been instances of complaints by citizens to certain provinces regarding misrule by corrupt officials. The appointment of Ashoka as the viceroy of Takshila during Bindusara's reign to redress the grievances of citizens against Dust Amtyas, wicked bureaucrats, is a good example. Excuse me. Similarly, the Kalinga edict also point towards the fact that Ashoka was very concerned about oppression in the provinces and therefore advised his Mahamattas not to torture townsmen without due cause. The disturbing and outrageous fact that the last Mauryan king Brihadratha was assassinated by his commander of army during an inspection of the troops. And there was probably not much hue and cry on the murder. Further, substantiates the claim that the late Mauryans were not very popular with the public. Financial crisis. The enormous expedition on maintaining such a large army and bureaucracy must have created a financial crisis for the Mauryan Empire. The cost of establishing settlements on the newly cleared land also must have strained the treasury, as the people settling on these lands initially were exempted from tax. D.D. Koshambi supports that this view and feels that heavy economic pressure due to the vast army and bureaucracy may have resulted in a crisis. Spread of material culture and new knowledge in the outlying areas. Once the new knowledge of iron tools and weapons spread in the peripheral areas, Magadh lost its special advantage. On the basis of material culture acquired from Magadha, new kingdoms such as the Shungas and Kannavas in central India, the Chetis in Kalinga, and the Satavahanas in the Deccan were founded and developed. Neglect of the northwest frontier and absence of boundary structures such as the Great Wall of China. The neglect of safeguarding of the passage on the northwest frontier cost the Mauryan dearly. In the 3rd century BCE, a number of Central Asian nomadic tribes, such as the Scythians, were in the state of flux and moved towards the settled empire of China and India in search of a new terrain. The Chinese ruler Xian Hongdi 247 to 210 BCE is in about 220 BCE constructed the Great Wall of China to protect his empire against the Scythians' attack. Since such measures were not taken by Ashoka on the northwestern frontier of India, in order to escape the Scythians, the Parthians, the Sakas, and the Greeks were forced to move towards India. The Greeks were the first to invade India in 206. And they set up their kingdom in the north Afghanistan called Bactria. Now we are going to start with the next chapter, that is political and cultural development during 200 BCE to 300 CE. The period between 200 BCE and 300 CE did not witness the emergence of large empire like the Mauryans, but it is notable for many other historical, political and cultural achievement. This period is marked by a shift of political focus from Magad to northwestern India. It was a series of invasion and the rise of many regional kingdoms, as well as the emergence of new traditions of governance such as joint rule and subordinate rule. This is also a period when cities expanded and urban culture gained a certain predominance. There was an increase in specialized craft and a marked expansion of trade network. The economy saw an increase in the use of currency. This was furthermore a period defined by the intermingling and influence of new cultures, vibrant doctrinal debate, the rise in the devotional worship of images, and the institutionalization of religious activity. The period also saw the emergence of sophisticated sculptures and architectural styles. The period, in short, contributed much to the rich and versatile heritage of the subcontinent as we know today. Political history of North India. As we have discussed earlier, the last Mauryan king, Brihadratha, was murdered in 187 BCE by his own commander-in-chief, Pushyamitra Shunga, which he was inspecting his troop. The Mauryan rule thus came to an end and the Shunga dynasty was established as the ruler of Magadha. It is pertinent to note that Pushyamitra's empire extended over only part of the erstwhile Mauryan empire, including Patliputra, Ayodhya, Vidisha and some part of modern-day Punjab, like Jalandhar and Sakala or Sialkot, as it is known now. The Shungas were considered Brahmins in their caste origin, and they are referred in both Buddhist and Brahminical texts such as Harsha Charitra, the Brihadranayaka Upanishad, Panani's Ashtadhyayi, and Kalidas Malvika Agnimitram, and Divyavadana and Taratha, a Buddhist scholar, account. The 10th Shunga king ruled in all likelihood for a total of 112 years. Now we'll start with Shunga dynasty. But before we do that, like double star mark this because इसके ऊपर सवाल MBPCS में 2018 में पूछा गया था, BPSC में 2001 में पूछा गया था and छत्तीसगढ़ PCS में 2008 में इसके ऊपर सवाल आया था. So make sure you star mark this in your book and revise it. Let's start. Shunga dynasty. 185 BCE to 148 BCE. Brihadratha, last Mauryan ruler. Pushyamitra Shunga killed Brihadratha, founder of the Shunga dynasty. Formerly the commander-in-chief of the Mauryan army, he performed 2 Ashwamedha sacrifices as mentioned in the Ayodhya stone inscription of King Dana. His dominion extended as far as Narmada river in the south and included cities such as Patliputra, Ayodhya, Vidisha. The drama Malvika Agnimitra mentions the conflict between Pushyamitra and Yajnasena, the king of Vidarbha, eastern Maharashtra, and the viceroy of the Shunga over them. He defeated Bactrian Greek king Demetrius This encounter is mentioned in Patanjali's work, who refers to the Yavanas, that is foreigners, from the west coming to Ayodhya and Chittor, as well as Kalidas Malvika Agnimitra, which narrates the incident of challenging of Pushyamitra's Ashwamedha horse by the Yavanas, which led to a military encounter between the prince Vasumitra, the son of Agnimitra, and the Yavana army. Patanjali, the notable grammarian who wrote the Mahabhyasa, was a contemporary of Pushyamitra Shunga. Divya Vandana gives an account of Pushyamitra's cruelty towards Buddhists and his hatred towards Buddhism. Agnimitra, the hero of Kalidas Malvika Agnimitram, described in this drama as a viceroy of Vidisha. Bhagabhadra or Bhagavata, probably the fifth king Kasiputta Bhagabhadra or the ninth king Bhagavata, as indicated by the notable Besnagar pillar inscription of Heliodorus. Heliodorus was the Greek ambassador to the Indo-Greek ruler Amtalakita Antelkidas of Takshila, who probably stayed at Shunga's court. In the inscription described himself as Bhagavata, that is, a worshipper of Lord Krishna and Garuda, Vishnu's vehicle, and declared that he had set up this pillar in honor of this god. Devibhuti, also known as Devabhumi, and was the last ruler of Shunga dynasty. According to Harsha Charitra, he was killed by a Brahmin minister, Vasudeva Kanava, who founded the Kanava dynasty in the part of central India. Remnants of Shunga empire were replaced by the Satavahanas. Kanava dynasty, Vasudeva, supposed to be the descendant of Rishi Kanava and ruled from Patliputra. We know virtually nothing about Kanavas except for rather cursory reference to them in the later text. Also described as Shunga Bhrityas, literally meaning servant of the Shungas. They made way for the Mitras in 30 BCE, who were eventually dislodged by the Shakas in Magadha. According to some scholars, the last Kanava ruler, Shushraman, was overthrown by the successor of Simuku of Satvahana dynasty. According to the same time, that is 200 BCE, there were invasions by various groups of people based in Central Asia and Western China. They were Indo-Greeks, the Scythians or the Shakas, the Partihans or the Pahalwas, and the Kushanas. These invasions not only changed the political structure of northwest India but also aided in the transmission and transformation of cultural elements of both India and the Central Asian region. Now we are going to talk about Indo-Greek / Bactrian Greek. So double star mark this topic as well, क्योंकि इसके ऊपर UPPSC में 2014 में सवाल पूछा गया था and UPRO/ARO में 2017 में क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था. So जो भी previously asked questions है, do mark them in your books too. So जब आप उसको पढ़ेंगे, it will be easy for you to know what topic is more important and what topic you are supposed to revise again and again. Right? So let's start. Indo-Greek, Bactrian Greek / Bactrian Greek, yes. After the death of Alexander in 323 BCE, many Greeks came to settle on the northwestern border of India with Bactria, presently northern part of Afghanistan. The area laying in the south of the Oxus River and to the northwest of the Hindu Kush mountain. The ruler of Bactria came to be called as Bactrian Greeks because of their Hellenistic Greek ancestry, as they were originally Stratops, subordinate ruler of the Seleucid Empire in the West Asia. Around the 3rd century BCE, Deodatus I, the governor of Bactria, revolted against the Antiochus, the Seleucid king, and established an independent Bactrian Greek kingdom. Later, around 145 BCE, on account of growing pressure from the Scythian tribes, the Bactrian Greeks lost their hold over Bactria, but continued to rule for a few decades over the northwestern part of the subcontinent. These Bactrian Greek who ruled over the part of northwest India between the 2nd century BCE and the early 1st century BCE are known as the Indo-Greeks. As we have discussed in the earlier chapter, with the construction of Chinese wall, the Scythians were pushed back from the China and they turned their attention towards the neighboring Greek and Parthians. Thus, in order to escape the war of the nomadic Scythians tribe, the Bactrian Greek were forced to invade India. Since the success of Ashoka were too weak to hold ground, a series of invasions on the northwestern borders of India started. In the beginning of the 2nd century BCE, the Indo-Greeks were the first to invade India. They occupied a large part of northwestern India, much larger than the conquered by Alexander, and it is believed that they pushed forward as far as Ayodhya and Patliputra. They were the first to issue gold coins, and much of their lineage is determined on the basis of excavated coins, which includes coins of silver, copper, and nickel as well. It is rather interesting to note that out of the 42 Indo-Greek kings, as many as 34 are known only through their coins. Large number of kings within a short span of time suggested that some of them ruled concurrently, and thus it is probable that the two Greek dynasties ruled in northwestern India or parallel lines simultaneously. Demetrius, king of Bactria, invaded India around 190 BCE and probably also came into conflict with Pushyamitra Shunga, conquered a considerable part of the Mauryan Empire in the northwestern India and extended Bactrian rule to the south of Hindu Kush. Maninder or Milinda or Mindra, 165 BCE to 145 BCE. So mark this important. इनके ऊपर सवाल आया था RA/RTS के एग्जाम में 2018 में. So remember this name and revise it and star mark this in your book too. Menander, the most celebrated Indo-Greek ruler who not only stabilized the Indo-Greek power but also extended his empire frontier in India. His empire extended over the parts of both Bactria and the northwestern India and appeared to have included southern Afghanistan and Gandhar, the region west of the river Indus. Had his capital at Sakala, modern Sialkot, Punjab, and it is believed that he also invaded and conquered the Ganga Yamuna Doab but failed to retain it for a long time. Another important city under his dominion was Mathura. He was converted to Buddhism by Nagsena, who had been identified with the king Milinda, mentioned the famous Buddhist text Milinda Pano, Question of Milinda, which contained philosophical question that Milinda asked Nagsena, the Buddhist author of the text. The text claimed that impressed by the answers, the king accepted Buddhism as his religion. He also identified with King Menander mentioned in the fragmented Khroshti inscription found on the casket at Bajor, presently in the northwest frontier province of Pakistan, which refers to the enshrining of release of Buddha, probably in stupa during his reign. Hermes, last ruler of this dynasty. He was defeated by Parthians around the last quarter of the 2nd century BCE, which led to the end of the Greek ruler in Bactria and the area of south of the Hindu Kush. However, it should be noted that the Indo-Greek ruler continued in the northwestern India for some more time. There is a mention of Queen Agatha Kalia, probably one of the queens of Menander I, and her son Strato, who joined coins have been found. The northwest Gandhara region was also lost to Parthians and Shakas in due course of time. Later in the 1st century BCE or the early 1st century CE, the remaining part of their territory, that is, the area in the east of Jhelum, was also ceded to the Kshatrapa ruler Rajvulo. Impact of Indo-Greek rule. The Indo-Greeks were the first ruler in India to issue coins, gold, silver, copper and nickel, which can be definitely attributed to any dynasty, and were also the first to issue gold coins in India, which increased in number under Kushanas. Interestingly, the coin of Shakas, Parthians and the Kshatrapas followed the basic feature of Indo-Greek coinage, including the bilingual and biscript legends. Indo-Greek coins were miniatures of aesthetic excellence, of precise economic value, and also providing useful information on emerging religious sects and cults, especially Shiva's and Bhagavata sect. They were prominent in that area. Coinage was also adjusted to region and requirement. For instance, the Indo-Greek coins were circulated to the north of Hindu Kush mountain. Were made up of gold, silver, copper, and nickel. Followed the Attic weight standard and had a Greek legends. Had a royal portrait on the observer and image of Greek deities such as Zeus, Apollo, Athena on the reverse along with the name and the title of the king. Indo-Greek coinage which were circulated in the south of Hindu Kush mountain were made up of silver and copper and were often square in shape. Had a bilingual inscription in Greek and Kharosthi, rarely in Brahmi, and followed an Indian weight standard. Royal portrait occur on the observer side, but the motifs on the reverse included religious symbols that were Indian rather than Greek in inscription. They introduced new features of Hellenistic art and literature, such as Gandhar art in the northwest frontier of India, which was not purely Greek but rather it was the outcome of intermingling and influence of both India and Central Asian contacts. A striking instance of mingling is the Besnagar pillar inscription of Heliodorus. New term which had the influence of Greek terminology began to be used in the subcontinent. For instance, the term Horastra used for astrology in Sanskrit, it derived from the Greek word horoscope. The Hellenistic Greek were also known for their monumental building and their small, finely crafted objects. Excavation of the cities of Eichhanum, located in the confluence of Oxus and the Kokach in modern Balkh, Anitoch and Sikap at Taxila, reveals a great talent of urban planning. Indo-Greek also introduced practice of military governorship. The governors were called strategists or straps. The Shakas or Scythians. Shaka in the Indian term used for the people called Scythians, who originally belonged to Central Asia. Interestingly, Patanjali in his Mahabhyasa referred to Shakas as Anirvasita, pure Shudras. The Greeks were followed by Shakas to India, and they controlled a much larger area as compared to the Greeks. In the late 2nd century BCE, as we have discussed earlier, the decline of the Greek kingdom, Seleucid Empire in the northwest coincides with the attack of Bactria by nomadic tribe people from Central Asia. That is, Seungnu, Shongun, and Wusun, Yechis, the tribal stock to which the Kushanas too belonged. It is believed that in the 1st century BCE, on account of excessive snow and continuous raids by the neighbors, the Seungnu suffered famine. This led to the migration and the displacement of Yunches, who were driven from their best land and had to migrate to distant places. The Yunches were further split into two branches, the Little Yunches, who settled in the northern Tibet, and the Great Yunches, who went further west to the shores of Aral Sea and the plains of Sirs Darya. Jaxartes, displacing the original inhabitant of that area. That is, the Scythians, the Sakas. The Saka advanced into Bactria, Parthia, and the Indus plain. There were 5 branches of Sakas who finally settled with the seats of power in different parts of India and Afghanistan. One branch of Shakas settled in Afghanistan. Prominent rulers of this branch were Vonenes and Spalares. The second branch settled in Punjab and Takshila as the capital. Mauryas was a prominent ruler. The third branch settled in Mathura, where it is ruled for about 2 centuries. Aeschylus was a prominent ruler. The fourth branch established its hold over Western India, where they ruled until 4th century CE. They ruled for the maximum period on account of flourishing economy based on the sea border trade in Gujarat, and thus issued a large number of silver coins. One of the prominent rulers was Rudraman I, belonging to the Shatrapas of Western Indian lineage. The fifth branch of Shakas established its power in the Upper Deccan. The complicated migration and movement of people from Central Asia had a ripple effect in the polity of Indian subcontinent. So it started from Seungnu, Yunchis, the great Yunchis, the Shah.